Danny Wu, a ovo je Square One Michael Jackson.
The fans say, no, he loved children. He could not possibly have been a child molester because look how great a singer and dancer he was. It just doesn't hold water with me.
The 93 case, if they'd been able to try the 93 case, I think Michael Jackson would be in a lot more trouble than he is here.
He molested other children.
Well, yeah, he only paid him $25 million out of the goodness of his heart.
It beggars belief until you remember that a previous alleged victim, Geordie Chandler, got $22 million and his family.
Why would you give a 13-year-old $22 million?
This is a favorite thing for the family and fans to say that, well, they're just out for money. Really?
If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want.
What gets me upset is just people judging my uncle without knowing the scenario.
I was the legal secretary in 1993.
In 2005, you were on the witness list.
Yeah. I actually opened up the door one day. I was leaving, and Jordy was in the back.
The way they're trying to twist it as if my uncle came and said, hey, I'm just going to start ripping off clothes.
So it's a complete nonsense when people say that there's evidence that there was a match.
My name is Taj Jackson.
My name is Geraldine Hughes.
My name is Charles Thompson.
My name is Jenny White.
My name is Josephine Soni. And a young man came up to me. That young man turned out to be Jordan Chandler. I believe that if that one is false, all the rest crumble.
Ovo je tema o kojoj ćemo govoriti u nastavku. Danny Wu je upravo gost N1 televizije, uključujući se putem Skype-a iz Kalifornije. Danny, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining.
Hello, Ika. It's great to be here. A pleasure to be on your show.
All right, let's go from the top. What drove you to do this very project? We have to take into consideration that each person that had something to say in regards to coming forward with the facts and court verdicts was facing serious backlash.
Yes, of course. I decided to do this film. Actually, the original plan wasn't for it to be a documentary. The original plan was that I would just go to New York, shoot an interview with Josephine Soni, who was a colleague of Jordan Chandler, and that would be it. But I soon realized that if I only had an interview with Josephine Soni, for fans, for people who knew a lot about the cases, that would mean a lot. But for neutrals, for people who are not fans of Michael Jackson, they might think that, so what? That's just one person's word. So from there on, I decided that I had to make this into a documentary. And so I just kept building from there. And I also had a YouTube channel. So I had interviewed Brandy Jackson and Taj Jackson, the niece and nephew of Michael Jackson, on my YouTube channel. So I think that I've got a lot of trust from the fan community, so people were willing to come forward to talk with me.
Yeah, and when we talk about Oprah and the fact that she never invited Taj or Brandy, it's something that public, especially the fan community, was expecting to happen from somebody else at least. So you're coming back with Square One with Crucial Michael Jackson Allegation documentary. Who did you speak to? How did you collect your evidence? How far in the past did you have to go to obtain documents?
Right. So I always knew a rumor that Jordan Chandler had talked to one of his friends before, or a colleague or a group of colleagues, something along those lines, that he told them that Michael Jackson never molested him around the early 2000s. So in my mind, I was thinking that if I could get one of these friends to speak out on camera, that would just be amazing. And I searched, and we finally found a name, and it was Josephine Soni. So I cross-referenced it with the witness list in 2005, and her name was right there at the end. And then I searched up on Twitter, and she was following me. So kind of just scouted her profile for a few days, asked around about her, and she had been very pro Michael Jackson on her Twitter profile. So I shot her a direct message and asked if she was comfortable in doing an interview with me, a one-on-one interview, and that would just be it. At first, she was reluctant because she's a very private person. If fans ask her about the situation, she would usually tell them the story, but she has never spoken her story publicly, never to the press, never to any media. So this is really her first time speaking out, and she actually does have a very important career as well. She is a publicist in New York, and she represents a lot of celebrities. So a lot of celebrities, a lot of organizations, restaurants, things of that nature. So for her to be speaking out, she's actually taking a major risk. And so...
Yeah, an invasion to her privacy, sort of.
Exactly. Actually, after Square One, the trailer was released 3 days later. Josine Zoni's website was hacked. Her Facebook was attempted to be logged in by someone else. Exactly. So that's the type of risk she was facing, and we knew that going in. But from Josine Zoni, I obviously knew that that wasn't enough, and I had to give neutrals context to the allegations. Myself, when I was researching Michael Jackson allegations, it's very hard to relate to Michael Jackson as a whole because he is such a unique personality. So for this case, context is always key. And when you argue with people online, when I see Michael Jackson fans argue with detractors online, the argument always goes back to, why did Michael Jackson pay a child $20 million? So
what findings have you obtained in that favor?
In the favor of Michael Jackson?
Yes. In favor of the case.
In favor of the case for Michael Jackson.
If we take the case, for example, Jordie Chandler, what were the findings that actually struck you the most? What did you find?
Of course, Josine Zoni's testimony was very important, and that was the main plot line of Square One. But what struck me the most was that Evan Chandler's brother, the father of the accuser, so the accuser's uncle actually wrote a book, and the book detailed the allegations in whole. And when you read between the lines, it clearly shows the father's true intent, which is an extortion.
Michael Jackson fan community was very active since Leaving Neverland was released. So it has been a tough year for the worldwide Michael Jackson fan community, as well as the family in the wake of Leaving Neverland. Celebrities like Oprah, we already mentioned her, 50 Cent, supporting Dan Reed's project, has somewhat silenced the voices of the opposing the film. How was the movie accepted worldwide?
I feel that Leaving Neverland, because of the push by Oprah, because of the push by the blue tick journalists or the blue tick celebrities, there was almost like a shield around it where you're not allowed to criticize it. But I think that the Michael Jackson fan community has done a tremendous job of pushing the facts out, searching on Twitter for anyone who has anything to say about Michael Jackson and just showering them with facts, with documents. And I think that's very honorable of them, and they're doing great justice.
So, Danny, how was the documentary perceived in the United States, and how was it perceived, for example, in Europe and in Asia? Is there a difference between the countries of how nations and the viewers of different countries perceive this documentary?
Right. I think that there is definitely a clear difference. Square One has currently premiered in 10 cities so far, and it's sold out every show. From the American perspective, I would say that the people going into Square One, they had a clear sense of the case in general because they have been able to study the information. So they were more impressed with how we were able to tie all the stories together to form a documentary. And that goes for London premiere as well. And I think for Asia, for China, because of the distance between China and North America and censorship laws back in the day, the 93 case wasn't covered nearly as much. So people were coming in really with no knowledge of the case, and they were watching it for the first time, and you can feel the anxiety of people watching the film and just feeling angry for Michael Jackson. And, you know, after the LA premiere, after the London premiere, it was like big applause, stuff like that. But in the Asian premieres, you can really just tell that the fans really just had to take that all in. So that was a pretty big difference that I saw between.
Was there a moment of silence?
Yes, I think in the China premieres, definitely there was a moment of silence. In the London premiere, actually, because the LA premiere was the first one, it was in TCL Hollywood, the TCL theater in Hollywood. And people were watching it for the first time. They were like screaming, applauding everything. And when it got to London, people were pretty quiet. So, you know, I was watching, I was kind of scared. I'm like, oh, it's a flop. Like, people don't like it. But they were just digesting everything. And, you know, what I also realized was that a lot of the people that went to these premieres, they have very high-profile jobs. They, like, have a lot to lose for just even going online to defend Michael Jackson. So I saw a tweet recently that said that Michael Jackson fans on Twitter has to be like a lawyer, a detective, autopsy examiner all at the same time, which I do believe is 100% true. And I also want to add that I've been fortunate enough to have the fan community be doing all the legwork for decades before me. So I was able to just look at their information, almost like a library, and kind of assess the things that I wanted in the documentary. And because of that, I think the fan community has a big presence in the creation of Square One.
Daddy, I would like to listen to some of the people that had something to say, especially when the Square One Michael Jackson premiered in Los Angeles and in London, so bear with me.
It's a fabulous film. It is high quality. It was carefully investigated. It was condensed in a very professional attempt to find the truth, and it tells the truth. And I commend Danny Wu and all of his people for the fabulous job they did, and I can't wait to hear this circulating through society.
I wasn't ready for it. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that profound.
Well, I think it was very well put together, very professional. The timeline was easy to follow, and I enjoyed it very much.
I find it very powerful. I knew all the facts, but I never seen all of them all together, you know, nicely done in a one area.
Like, I truly appreciate all Danny Wu's efforts. I think it's incredible.
It's the best documentary I ever seen about Michael Jackson, all the facts.
I think everyone should watch it.
I would like to turn to Twitter as well. Danny, I tweeted before we went into the studio if the fans or the community or anybody that will watch our interview has any sort of questions, and they had a lot of questions. So I would like to read some of these questions for you, if that's okay.
Okay.
So we have Dom saying, I'd like to know what Danny thinks of fighting to have the law changed in the United States or have a law voted to protect the deceased.
I don't really think I have that much of an opinion on it. I can see it going both ways. You know, there are cases where they are repressed memories, and is it fair for those victims to just be ignored because of that? But I do think that this law exists for a reason, because when someone has passed away, there is no way to defend themselves. So maybe there's a compromise where someone who has passed away and they can have they can still sue for defamation, because I think the law right now is that if you're passed away, there's no defamation law. And I think that if there is defamation protection against the dead, that could be a good addition.
We have another question saying, Jean, Danny, what is your background? Where are you from? To cover that topic as well.
My background, I'm Chinese, and I was born in Chengdu, China. I moved to Vancouver, Canada when I was 7 years old, and I've stayed here ever since.
You're immigrant. All right, so we have Shine of Michael. I'd like to know how you deal with daily ignorance, and if he's met people who changed their mind thanks to this documentary that you've made.
What was the second part of the question?
Have you met any people that changed their minds when it comes to the documentary after watching your documentary?
Yes. I think especially at the London and LA premieres, because there were a lot of neutrals invited, and a lot of them actually did come up to me afterwards and they did change their opinion. Or, I would get texts from friends being like, I cannot believe that I've never known about this. I just assumed that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. And of course, the top YouTube comments are all about how they're neutrals and they didn't know about this. So I thought that, I think Square One does, the goal of Square One was always to appeal to the neutrals, to give neutral people the context of the whole case. And I think it's done quite well in that sense. And how I deal with ignorance, I just take the high road.
All right. So Simon asked, following the release of Square One MJ, have you received any replies or reactions from Gene Clementi, FBI profiler, who said terrible things about Michael Jackson and which your documentary exposed and proved were lies?
About Jim Clemente, he has responded, actually. He has tweeted me a couple times.
All right. And what did he say?
Something along the lines that he is correct and that he knows the situation better than those that were involved. But I think people will see more about his response soon, I guess.
All right, you collaborated with the immediate Jackson family. How did they look upon the idea of making such movie? Taj is working on a similar project.
Yes, of course. I had a relationship with Taj since I interviewed him for my YouTube channel. So he was happy to do the interview. Funny story was that after Square One premiered in Los Angeles, we were at dinner and, everyone was kind of in a good mood. And Taj just looks at me and he's like, Danny, I wouldn't be saying this if it wasn't good. If it was bad, I would still tell you it was good. But trust me, it was good. So I do remember that. And, for all of the stuff that their family has gone through over the years, I think with Taj's, I think he's going to be able to deliver a big blow.
Charles Thompson, investigative journalist and legal correspondent for the MJ Cast. Your collaboration with him?
Right. Charles Thompson was actually a very late addition to the team, and it's a very important role. He is the narrator. He is the story that ties everything together, and he's done such extensive research on the topic that I think it's very commendable for anyone looking to do research of this kind. And Charles, when I reached out to him, literally we just set a date and we did the interview on the phone right there and then. So I think a lot of the complaints about Square One was because it was recorded through a phone, but that's how organic the whole situation was. The day before the trailer came out was the day that I interviewed Charles Thompson.
All right. Have you spoken to Dan Reed? Have you asked him to participate in any way?
No, I haven't.
All right. Have you spoken to Robson or Safechuck?
No, I haven't.
All right. We're going to go through some more questions of the community. They're asking as well if you've spoken to Dan Reed or Robson or Safechuck. We do have a question from Maisie Walsh saying, is the choice of the name for the documentary Square One supposed to suggest that there is something in the plans to follow it? For example, Square Two?
Well, when I was making the name Square One, It was really just, I needed to cut it from back to square one, just square one. So no, square two was not in the thoughts.
All right, we have just Little on Me asking, what inspired you to investigate further and put yourself out there despite facing potential onslaught from those who believe you might be a victim shaming? We have to talk about victim shaming as well.
Right. I feel that, well, first of all, I think it was the right thing to do. I felt that I had a skill set that could be attributed to the community, and that I felt that there is a story to be told here. I think with victim shaming, I definitely had some concerns about it going into the project, but I feel that with the way that Jordan Chandler was portrayed and how he really was in real life, I don't think there was much victim shaming being done. I think that if people watch Square One and call it victim shaming, I just think that speaks through their own ignorance.
Mm-hmm. We have Beth asking, I'd like to know if Danny has been in touch with any of the major streaming channels, for example, Netflix, to help get Square One out to broader audience.
Maybe not Netflix, but there's definitely talks about the improved version of Square One, the polished version of Square One, being available at a bigger platform for a wider range of audience to be able to watch it.
All right. So what is next for this project, and what is next for you, Danny?
Well, next for this project, I think would be, of course, the Amsterdam premiere is coming up.
In January,
so
right?
That is January 18th. So Todd Jackson is going to be there. Jenny Winings, Josephine Zoni, the team is all going to be there. I think the tickets are sold out, though, so I don't really have to plug it. But that is going to be the last premiere. That's going to be the last premiere of Square One 2.0, the polished version of Square One. And after that, our focus is going to turn to making Square One, getting Square One to a bigger platform.
So Danny, when you dig deeper into the files, when you did that, when you spoke to people relevant to Michael Jackson and allegations and the cases from the 90s, is there anything that made you feel like you were on a right way, like you're on a good path, or that you are wrong about certain things?
Well, there were definitely misconceptions that I've had for a long time that had been cleared up through investigating, through talking to Charles Thompson, because there's so much myths concerning that 93 case since it never gone to trial. It was the only case that didn't go to trial. So there were a lot of mysteries surrounding it. And I thought that through investigating the case closer, a lot of the actions, a lot of the sequences that happened back then, there were reasons for it. And a lot of the things that made Michael Jackson look very guilty had a perfectly reasonable explanation behind it.
All right. What would be, in your opinion, the reasonable explanations? For example, we do hear a lot of comments such as, well, Michael Jackson loved children, but he was not a predator. He was weird in a way, he was different. But what would be the objective, factual comment or argument to say, well, he was not the predator?
I would say that it's undeniable that Michael Jackson definitely loved spending time with children. He definitely saw himself as a child. And I think that to just label him a pedophile because he liked spending time with children is very irresponsible. So I think that you have to accept the fact that Michael Jackson does like hanging out with children. He did not have a normal childhood. And I would like to say that for the rest, you can research for yourself and come to your own conclusions.
All right, Danny, I would like to thank you for taking time to speak with us. I think we obtained some of the most important answers to the most important questions that were really covering more or less the entire year. The debate was ongoing the entire year since March, basically, up to now. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Danny. Gost N1 televizije bio američki režiser, tvorac projekta Square One Michael Jackson, istraživački novinar Danny Wu. Ove i ostale informacije možete pronaći na našem sajtu kao i na našim društvenim mrežama. Hvala što ste bili uz nas. Ja sam Ika Ferrer-Gotić. Doviđenja.